Are you ready to embark on a thrilling adventure through the world of PlayStation 5? We've handpicked our best PS5 videos, the ones with millions of views, and prepared an incredible hour-long marathon special packed with excitement, surprises, and mind-blowing discoveries. In this epic event, we're unlocking the secrets of the PlayStation 5, bringing you exclusive content that will leave you craving more. From avoiding crucial mistakes to maximizing your gaming experience, we have it all. Discover the hidden truths behind the myths and lies surrounding the PlayStation 5, and uncover the amazing secrets of the DualSense controller that will elevate your gameplay to new heights. But that's not all. We'll also be taking a look at the PlayStation 5 after years of use, asking the big questions. Was it worth it? Is the hype real? Find out if the PS5 has stood the test of time. So get ready, because today we're about to take you on an unforgettable journey with this amazing PlayStation 5 1-hour marathon special.
Superplayers.
Oh, the PS5. An incredible piece of technology paired with the most awesome exclusive games of the industry. It is fair to say that it's been a huge hit among gamers. However, there are so many common mistakes that PlayStation users are making every day, with results that range from minor inconveniences to major irreparable damage. So get ready, because today we're having a look at the top 10 crucial PS5 mistakes you must avoid.
Superplayers.
Number 10. Avoid running the PS5 continuously without rest mode or shutting down. Electronic devices, including gaming consoles like the PS5, generate heat. To prevent overheating, these devices utilize cooling systems such as fans and heat sinks. However, running your PS5 constantly without giving it rest or shutting it down when not in use, particularly with auto rest mode disabled, can lead to excessive heat buildup. Overheating can cause severe damage to the internal components of your PS5, reducing its lifespan or causing it to stop working altogether. This could cost you both time and money for repairs or replacement. Therefore, it's important to give your console breaks and use the rest mode, or properly shut it down when it's not in use. Number 9. Don't interrupt updates by switching off your PS5. When your console is updating, it's essentially reconfiguring its software or firmware, performing crucial tasks like installing security patches, improving system stability, or adding new features. Turning off your PS5 during an update interrupts this process, which can cause serious issues. At best, you may have to restart the update, but at worst, it could corrupt your system memory, affecting your console's functionality. Additionally, it may also corrupt your saved games, causing you to lose your progress. Therefore, always make sure that your console completes its updates before turning it off. Number 8. Avoid disabling the Auto Update feature. The Auto Update feature of your PS5 is an essential tool that helps maintain your console's security and performance. While your PS5 is in rest mode, it automatically downloads and installs updates, including security patches, firmware upgrades, and game updates. Disabling this feature might expose your console to potential vulnerabilities and prevent you from experiencing new features or improvements. Despite the occasional inconvenience of having to wait for updates to install, it's important to keep Auto Update enabled to ensure your PS5 remains secure and up to date. Number 7. Avoid leaving unused discs in the console. Leaving an unused disc in the PS5's optical drive might seem harmless, especially when the console is off. However, doing so can cause unnecessary wear and tear on the disc reader, potentially reducing its lifespan. Furthermore, if the console is moved while a disc is inside, it could damage the disc reader sensor or the disc itself, leading to unreadable games or a non-functional drive. Therefore, always ensure that you remove any unused discs before moving the console or switching to a digital game. Number 6. Avoid incorrect shutdown of your PS5. Your PlayStation 5, like any other sophisticated electronic device, depends heavily on its internal software to function correctly. This software, also known as firmware, manages everything from the visual interface you interact with to more foundational aspects such as data management and communication between various hardware components. The process of shutting down your PS5 is more than simply cutting power to the system. When you select the Turn Off PS5 option in the power settings, it initiates a series of steps designed to safely end all activities, save any unsafe data, and prepare the system for a complete power off. This orderly shutdown process helps to maintain the integrity of the system software and preserve your data. An improper shutdown, such as pulling the plug or switching off the power abruptly, circumvents this important process. This can be particularly harmful if the console was in the middle of writing data when the power was cut off. In computers, this is equivalent to a sudden system crash, which is known to cause numerous issues, including file corruption, lost data, and in some cases, damage to the operating system. In the context of a PS5, if the console was saving your game progress or updating system files when power was suddenly removed, it may result in loss of your game progress or even corruption of the system software. This could lead to an unbootable console, necessitating a time-consuming and potentially costly repair process. This small act not only safeguards your valuable game progress, but also ensures the longevity of your console. Number 5. Avoid attempting to jailbreak or hack your PS5. Jailbreaking or hacking your PS5 might seem enticing, as it often promises access to restricted features or the ability to run unofficial software. However, such practices carry significant risks. Attempting to alter the system software could brick your console, rendering it inoperable. Additionally, it could lead to permanent bans from PlayStation Network, preventing you from accessing online features, multiplayer games, digital purchases, and updates. Given these risks and the potential expense of repairing or replacing a bricked console, it's best to use your PS5 as intended and respect the software restrictions put in place by Sony. Number 4. Avoid misplacement of your PS5. The placement of your PS5 in your gaming setup plays a critical role in its performance and lifespan. Placing your console in an enclosed space without proper ventilation or not using the stand can lead to overheating issues. Overheating is one of the main causes of damage to electronic devices, as it can reduce the lifespan of components and lead to performance issues. Therefore, always ensure your PS5 is positioned in a well-ventilated space and securely fixed on its stand to promote optimal airflow and stability. Number 3. Avoid downloading the incorrect version of cross-gen games. The PS5 is backward compatible with PS4 games, meaning that it can play both versions. However, PS5 versions of cross-gen games often offer significant enhancements such as improved graphics, faster loading times, and other next-gen features. Accidentally downloading the PS4 version of a game means missing out on these enhancements. Therefore, always check the version of the game after purchasing a cross-gen title. You can do this by going to the PlayStation Store, finding the game you wish to download, select the 3 dots button next to the download button, and selecting the PS5 version. Number 2. Turn off trophy video recording. The PS5 has a feature that automatically records gameplay when you earn a trophy. While this can be a fun way to relive your achievements, it also uses up valuable storage space. With the internal storage on the PS5 being somewhat limited, especially when you have many games installed, you'll want to conserve space where you can. By turning off trophy video recording, you can save a significant amount of space over time, allowing for more games and other content on your console. Number 1. The PlayStation 5, Sony's newest gaming console, is equipped with a super-fast internal SSD, or solid-state drive. This is a significant upgrade from the PlayStation 4's slower hard drive technology. This internal SSD is one of the reasons why PS5 games can load almost instantaneously, render vast game worlds in real time, and minimize lag during gameplay. But with great speed comes great data requirements. PS5 games are often larger than their predecessors, requiring more storage space due to their enhanced graphics and complex content. This poses a strategic question regarding how best to use this internal SSD, given its finite storage capacity. Considering that PS5 games are specifically designed to make use of this fast storage for maximum performance, it makes sense to reserve the internal SSD for PS5 titles. On the other hand, PS4 games were designed with the previous generation's hardware in mind. They don't take advantage of the PS5's fast SSD in the same way that PS5 games do, because their designs and data structures were not built for this speed. While they may see some improvement in loading times when stored on the SSD, the difference is generally not as dramatic as with PS5 games. Furthermore, one of the benefits of the PS5 is its backward compatibility with PS4 games, which means you can play your PS4 titles directly from an external USB drive. This is where the cost-effectiveness comes in. External USB drives, particularly those based on slower hard drive technology, are generally cheaper per gigabyte than high-speed SSDs. By offloading your PS4 games onto an external drive, you can free up your console's fast internal storage for PS5 games, thus ensuring you get the best performance where it matters most. Plus, if you have a sizable library of PS4 games, this strategy will allow you to maintain access to all of your old favorites without taking up precious SSD space. So, there you have it. Do you have any other tips to help other users prolong their PlayStation 5 lifespan? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you again in our next video.
Superplayers.
If you're lucky enough to have a PS5 sitting in your home, then you know what makes this console so great. But if you're still waiting patiently for your chance to get one, you might be wondering why the console is still out of stock everywhere. So get ready, because here are the top 10 things that we love about them.
Superplayers.
Number 10. If you have ever been known as an Xbox gamer, you know the pain of having your batteries die in the middle of an intense gaming session. It's upsetting, it's embarrassing, and it is most definitely not ideal for hardcore gamers who want to get the most out of their consoles. PlayStation, on the other hand, has stuck with high-quality lithium-ion rechargeable batteries for the past 2 generations of consoles, and the PS5 continues that trend. This time, the PS5's DualSense controllers use a USB-C charging port, allowing for fast charging of their 1,800 mAh batteries. You won't need to worry about charging very often though, since these controllers are rated for 12 to 15 hours of use. Number 9. While the PS5 is still suffering from availability woes, there is an awesome feature of the console that gives faithful fans a chance at getting their hands on shiny new PS5 games. If you happen to have a PS4 and know someone who has a PS5, you can make use of Sony's SharePlay system. With SharePlay, users can connect directly to their friends' consoles, allowing them to take full advantage of a new device completely remotely. While it's not the same as having that beautiful black and white obelisk on your entertainment center, it's still an awesome feature that can give those patient PlayStation fans a taste of what the PS5 offers. Number 8. For the past few years, Xbox has dominated Sony in terms of gaming services. Game Pass, combined with Xbox Live, gives subscribers access to over 100 games of all different kinds, with all of their features completely available. It seemed a little unorthodox at first, but it is a pro-consumer move that has the gaming industry taking notice. Especially Sony, who has now finally created a version of PS Plus that meets, or perhaps even surpasses, Game Pass. With 3 reasonably priced tiers, Essential, Extra, and Premium, subscribers can gain access to over 700 games from across every generation of PlayStation consoles, including retro games. When combined with the power of the PS5, the video game collections of the brand new PlayStation Plus are an unstoppable force and an unbelievable value. Number 7. The PS5 experience is completed by downloading the all-new PlayStation app. If you install the app and sign into your PlayStation account before you set up your new PS5, you can even use the app to sign your console into your account. But the benefits don't stop there. You can manage your library, purchase games from the PlayStation Store, and even set them to download remotely right from the PS app. No need to turn on your console for every little thing. And the added benefit of being able to put games on download while you're at work so that they're ready when you get home is a game changer. Number 6. While Xbox seems to be satisfied with using the same interface it's been using for almost 10 years with minimal updates, Sony has taken a different path. They could have just kept using the magnificent XMB interface from the PS3 era, but they have instead decided to completely overhaul their console's user interface every generation. And for the PS5, that means a completely smooth, well-thought-out UI that never gets in the way. In fact, the PS5 UI is packed full of features that will help you get the most out of your device, but will never interrupt your gameplay experience. These features are intuitive enough that users will be able to find and use them when they are needed, without taking time to search for them. Number 5. If you have a long-standing, regularly scheduled gaming hangout with your other console friends, the odds are that all of the action happened on PlayStation. The PS4 was just the more popular platform for many different games, especially those with huge online communities like Destiny and Final Fantasy XIV. Now, you wouldn't want to ditch all those years of dedication and progress to jump ship to a new console and ecosystem. That makes the PS5 the default choice for social gamers, and the best choice for everyone else. As an added bonus, those very same games you loved so much on the PS4 look and run better on the PS5, making use of at least some of the console's extra graphical power. Number 4. When you're out shopping for a PS5, you only have one decision to make. Should you buy the version with the disk drive or the one without it? That disk drive is literally the only difference between the units, but the disk driveless version clocks in at a shocking $399, $100 cheaper than the other unit with the disk drive. Going through the same process for Xbox, you can either get the more expensive Series X at $499, or the much weaker Series S for $299. Sure, you're getting some savings with the Series S, but it offers much lower performance and a weaker game catalog than the PS5. So, considering the extra cost, right now, the PS5 is the best deal in console gaming. Number 3. If you want to be on the bleeding edge of gaming technology, the PS5 is the only choice for a console that has future-proofed capabilities such as VR compatibility. Xbox doesn't have any VR peripherals announced, and they likely will never create one. But Sony already has the incredibly impressive PSVR 2. The VR add-on for your favorite new console is packing features that push the boundaries of VR hardware, such as ultra-high-resolution OLED displays, eye tracking, and highly advanced controllers to boot. VR offers the most immersive gameplay experiences, and the PS5 is the only home console that will have that feature available in the near future. Number 2. We previously mentioned the awesome battery life and rechargeable nature of the PS5's DualSense, but that is only a single feature of this feature-packed controller. Aside from returning features such as the built-in speaker and gyroscope, the DualSense also offers revolutionary additions like advanced haptics and adaptive triggers. Get closer to your games than ever before, with triggers that can simulate the tension of a bow as you wait for the perfect moment to strike. The gentle vibrations from the haptics can make you feel the rain droplets in a stormy scene. Every aspect of the DualSense is designed not just for comfort and usability, but also to bring the experience out of the TV and into your hands. Number 1. Console exclusives are quickly becoming a thing of the past, but if you want to make sure that you'll always have access to the best AAA console exclusive games, the PS5 is the way to go. Sure, Xbox has Halo, but only on PS5 can you get the web-swinging action of Marvel's Spider-Man and Miles Morales, the dimension-hopping set pieces of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and God of War Ragnarok. which looks to be the highest profile video game release, and that's only a fraction of the exclusive games you can play on PS5. We didn't even mention Ghosts of Tsushima, Returnal, or Horizon Forbidden West. The list of PS5 exclusives is always growing, and there is plenty to keep you busy while you wait for the next big thing that can only be played on this console. So, there you have it. These are the top 10 things we love about our PS5s. Have you managed to snag a PS5? What do you love about it so far? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.
Superplayers.
Released on November 12, 2020, the PS5 has now had a few years to show off its prowess, and despite being incredibly hard to find, it's still the most desired console of this generation. For many, the best exclusive games are made only for the PlayStation 5, and the DualSense controller is simply a generational leap beyond its competitors. But of course, not everything is perfect, and the PS5 does indeed have its flaws. But just how bad are they? Is the PS5 still worth all the hassle, or should you just wait a few years more before buying one? Get ready, because today we are having a look at the PS5 console 2 years later.
Superplayers.
Well, since its release, the PlayStation 5 hasn't changed that much physically. That means there's still no slim version available and no pro version either. What we do have in our hands is the same oddly shaped but futuristic-looking device that has been loved and hated by many at the same time. However, Sony did make a small upgrade 1 year after the release on the console. This refresh made some changes to the Wi-Fi antennas, but most importantly, changed the internal cooling system in the form of a new, smaller heatsink that also weighs 300 grams less and a new cooling fan. It hasn't been confirmed, but everything seems to indicate that Sony is trying to reduce the amount of copper required to build a PS5, since copper demand and pricing has been at an all-time high. This new model can also be recognized because it now has a new screw for the stand that doesn't require a screwdriver for assembly. Now the big question: is the refreshed PS5 model better or worse than the launch model? Well, one of the first and most popular pieces of content on this topic was Austin Evans' disassembly and comparison video, where he compared both cooling systems and measured the temperature on the exhaust of both systems. Since the temperature on the exhaust of the refreshed model was 3 to 5 degrees hotter, he concluded that the new model runs hotter, and by consequence, the lifespan of the device would be shorter. However, this approach was highly controversial and proved to be misleading. Higher temperatures on the exhaust usually just means that more heat is taken out of the console, and that the airflow is actually better. This was confirmed later when more in-depth analysis was made by both Gamer Nexus and Digital Foundry. They concluded that the new PS5 actually runs cooler and better than the launch model, but not by a significant amount. So yeah, the refreshed model runs a little bit cooler, but either one of the two will work just fine. Besides, just getting a PS5 at all in the first place is an accomplishment by itself, so don't let the model differences get in the way of you and your console. And how about the games? Well, let's just say that PlayStation 5 has been killing it since launch. We had awesome remakes like Demon's Souls that took the original game and remade it from the ground up for the new generation with enhanced gameplay and even better graphics. We also got amazing remasters like Spider-Man Remastered, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, and Death Stranding Director's Cut, which were fan favorites since day one. Also, Miles Morales had excellent reviews, and the free included Astro's Playroom has been a delight to show off the DualSense capabilities that are leaps ahead of anything else on the market. Let's also not forget the incredible roguelike game Returnal, which, although not for everyone, proved to be a success in the genre. And of course, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which is not only fun and engaging, but delivered on the promise of being a PS5 showcase, both for graphics and its super fast storage. Gran Turismo 7 has also been excellent and ranked as one of the best entries in the series. Although it was highly criticized for pushing in-game microtransactions a bit too hard, it has been getting better lately. And Horizon Forbidden West? Simply put, the best game of the franchise and a graphical powerhouse for the PlayStation 5. There's just not that many games that come even close to looking as good as this game. So, yeah, these games are beyond great and can only be played on PlayStation 5. But wait, it doesn't stop there. There's a bunch more great titles coming. Games like God of War Ragnarok, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and Marvel's Wolverine are just the tip of the iceberg of what's to come for this console. The only downside is that most of these titles now have a sticker price of $69.99 instead of $59.99 of the previous gen. So you may want to wait a little for newer titles and be on the lookout for deals and discounts to get better pricing. It's also worth mentioning that the operating system has been improved multiple times since launch. Some of these updates have been small, simply improving stability, while others had a bigger impact, bringing new features and improvements. New features added to the system via update include the ability to upgrade the SSD storage on the console, introducing 3D audio via TV speakers, vertical trophy lists, and the inclusion of variable refresh rate, which enhances visual performance for PS5 games by minimizing or eliminating visual artifacts, such as frame pacing issues and screen tearing. This all means that this console operating system just gets better and better each time. And how about the hardware reliability? Well, a US law firm has hit Sony Interactive Entertainment with a class action lawsuit, alleging that the PS5 DualSense controllers are defective due to stick drifting. This is a behavior that typically occurs due to wear and tear on the mechanism that controls the sticks, and is manifested with slow, unwanted stick movements. We have a few DualSense controllers in our office, and still none of them have shown any signs of drifting, despite being used for more than a year. However, some users have reported having their controllers drift within just a few hours of use. So your mileage may vary, and this is not an issue that you can fix by yourself easily. Other than that, the DualSense has been simply awesome. There's just nothing else like it on the market, with its adaptive triggers, precise haptic feedback, built-in microphone, speakers, and the list just goes on and on. We did find while using it for a while that it can get really dirty on the back, and being white-colored with a grippy texture doesn't really help much, even though you can clean it fairly easily. The good news is that we haven't had any issues with the console itself. Compared with the PS4, it is much more silent and simply a joy to use. Although we do wish it was a bit smaller and without this unnecessarily weird shape that makes it harder to fit into tight spaces. Another thing that we have found very annoying is just how easy it is to scratch the piano black finish on the middle of the console. It doesn't matter how careful we are, it just keeps getting dust, fingerprints, and scratches of all sizes. Some of these scratches are pretty significant and seem to remain there forever. It doesn't affect the performance of the device, but if you care about this kind of stuff, we highly recommend getting some type of faceplates or skin covers for your console. We also feel the cloud sync of game saves have a huge opportunity for improvement. Compared to Xbox strategy where you just open your games in any platform and your progress is synced automatically, PS5 games that also exist on PS4 have a different process that varies from game to game, and fans have loudly criticized the convoluted process of transferring saves from games like God of War and Final Fantasy VII Remake, and the list goes on. It's also worth mentioning that PlayStation Plus has evolved too. Now it offers several levels of subscriptions with different perks and benefits. The base subscription is now called PlayStation Plus Essential, and it includes downloadable games, exclusive discounts, cloud storage for saved games, and online multiplayer access. Next, there is PlayStation Plus Extra, which includes everything from the tier below and adds a catalog of up to 400 games from both PS4 and PS5. And the last one is called PlayStation Plus Premium, which offers everything mentioned before, plus up to 340 additional games, including titles from older consoles, some through streaming and some through downloads. Time-limited game trials will also be offered in this tier, so you can try select games before you buy them. Right now, Sony is really trying to push streaming, and that's why they have merged their PlayStation Now streaming service with their PlayStation Plus Extra and PlayStation Plus Premium subscriptions. Still, not near as good as Xbox Game Pass, but getting closer and closer each time. A very different panorama than when the console launched indeed. All in all, this console's first years have been amazing. Games so far have been spectacular, with even more to come in the future. The console has proven to be rock solid, and the multiple system updates keep everything feeling fresh. So if you have the opportunity to buy this console, at the suggested retail pricing that is, without having to buy it from scalpers, we highly recommend you do so. We have been having a blast enjoying the new DualSense functionality, and the incredible catalog more than make up for the cost of the device. The new PSVR is looking amazing, and we have yet to see the true power of the PlayStation 5, as typically developers get to that point at the end of the generation, and right now, we're just at the beginning.
Superplayers.
Ah, the oh-so-hard-to-find PS5. Maybe the most desired console of all time. Since so many people want it, but not many people can actually get it, there is a lot of misinformation floating around that maybe you can't confirm by yourself. So this time we're going to help you out, busting some myths one by one until we can get the truth. Get ready, cause today we are busting 20 myths of the PS5.
Superplayers.
Myth number 1. Let's start with the most common myth of them all, and that is, you don't need to pay to play online on the PlayStation 5. This is absolutely false. You have to pay to play online on the PlayStation 5. The only exceptions are games that are free to play, like Fortnite, Apex, or Warzone, which are, well, free, and don't charge you to play. But other than those types of games, yes, you have to pay for a PlayStation Plus subscription to play online. Get used to subscriptions on consoles. That's how they all work. Myth number 2. PlayStation 5 is more powerful than Xbox. No, that is also false. In fact, the Xbox has more teraflops than a PS5. Although in practice, what we have seen is that they are very even. Yes, Xbox wins most of the time on multi-platforms, but not by that much. So, for the average gamer, they wouldn't find a difference in graphic quality most of the time. But no, the PlayStation 5 is not more powerful than the Xbox Series X. Myth number 3. The PlayStation 5 storage is faster than Xbox. Well, the PS5 storage is supposed to be extremely fast, and it has a lot of proprietary technology that the Xbox doesn't have. But in practice, what we've seen is that they have very similar load times on games that exist on both consoles. Some games favor Xbox, some other games favor PS5. So yeah, we'll give Sony the benefit of the doubt anyway, since they've put so much emphasis on this technology, and so many PlayStation 5 exclusives haven't even started to come out yet, where they're supposed to show off this potential. But in the meantime, they're pretty much the same, and the super fast PS5 storage is basically a myth. Myth number 4. You can use a PlayStation 4 controller on a PlayStation 5. Yes, you can use PlayStation 4 controllers on a PlayStation 5. But only for PlayStation 4 games specifically. When you put in a PlayStation 5 game, it doesn't work. Myth number 5. You can use a DualSense controller on a PlayStation 4. No, at the moment, you can't. Neither per cable nor via Bluetooth. We don't know if this will change in the future, but for right now, it's not possible. Myth number 6. You can put an external disk drive on a digital PS5. Well, some people have tried. You can connect it through USB, and you'll hear the disc spin, but the game will never launch. So there you go. Myth number 7. The PlayStation 5 with disc reader doesn't support digital games. Let's put it this way. The PS5 with disc reader is basically a digital PS5 with a disc reader attached. So it can run physical and digital games. And yes, I know a lot of you guys think this is a very strange question to ask, but believe me, people ask this question all the time. All the time. Myth number 8. The PlayStation 5 shouldn't be placed horizontally. That's also not true. You can put the console horizontally or vertically, as it was designed that way. It looks stranger and uglier, but yes, you can do it. Myth number 9. PlayStation 5 does not support hard drives. That is not true. It does support hard drives, but not for PS5 games. You can only install PlayStation 4 games or have a backup of your PlayStation 5 games so that when you need it, you don't have to download it again from the internet. Myth number 10. You can play PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 games on the PlayStation 5. You can't. You can only play PlayStation 4 games, and not even all of them. The only way you can play PlayStation 1, 2, or 3 games on a PS5 is through the PlayStation Now service, which is basically a streaming service that nobody uses because, well, it's just bad. Myth number 11. PlayStation 5 is as loud as PlayStation 4. Not at all. The PlayStation 5 is a lot quieter than the previous PlayStation, so now you won't feel as if you had a jet engine below your TV. Myth number 12. The PlayStation 5 supports the 1440p resolution. Also not true. This resolution, which is very common for PC gamers, is not officially supported on the PlayStation 5, only on Xbox. So, right now, the PlayStation 5 basically supports 1080p and 4K only. Myth number 13. PlayStation 5 does not support 120 frames per second. That's not true. The PlayStation 5 does indeed support 120 frames per second. It is just that the list of games that support that frame rate is not so big, but PS5 does support that frame rate. You just have to look harder for games. Myth number 14. You don't need a headset since the DualSense has mics and speakers integrated. Wait. Yes, the DualSense controller has a built-in microphone and a built-in speaker, but even though you can talk through the controller, it sounds kinda bad. It's never going to sound better than if you just use a headset. So yeah, the DualSense has those features inside, but please keep using your headsets for everyone's sake. Myth number 15. The PS5 controller battery is better than the PS4 controller battery. Well, technically yes. The DualSense battery is bigger, but since this controller has so many new features, it also drains faster. So yes, the battery is bigger, but if you use all of the new features that really make the PlayStation 5 feel cool, it's basically the same battery life as a DualShock 4. Myth number 16. DualSense only works with the PlayStation 5. This is false. In fact, DualSense is very compatible. It works with iOS devices, iPhones, iPads, and Android devices, and even PCs without having to do anything additional. If your PC supports Bluetooth, you can perfectly pair it with your DualSense and play Steam games, and it feels pretty awesome. In fact, there are some games that are implementing DualSense-specific functionality when playing on PC with this controller. Myth number 17. PlayStation 5 games are more expensive. Well, let's see here. Generally, the standard in the video game industry is that a new game tends to cost $60. However, Sony took this to the next level, and now Sony exclusives cost $70. Games like Demon's Souls, the new Ratchet & Clank, and anything else Sony puts out now cost an additional $10. There are other multi-platform games that try to pull this off once in a while, but it's not very common. So, in a way, yes, the exclusive games are more expensive on PlayStation 5. Myth number 18. If I had a PlayStation 4 and I buy a PlayStation 5, I would lose all of my friends, my games, and my subscriptions. Nope, that's not true. All your games, subscriptions, friends, all of that is tied directly to your PlayStation account. So you can take your PlayStation 4 account, log into your PlayStation 5, and you're going to have everything identical as before. Myth number 19. I can convert my PlayStation 4 games to PlayStation 5 games. Well, this depends. What a lot of developers are doing is they sell you the game on PlayStation 4 and charge you extra for the PlayStation 5 version like they did on Battlefield 2042. If you don't pay extra, they're going to work, but as PlayStation 4 games, without better graphics. Some other games do it for free, so it really depends. Myth number 20. If I have a PlayStation 5, I can't talk to my PlayStation 4 friends. This is absolutely false. It doesn't matter if you have a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 5. You can talk to your friends without any problems. You can message each other, be in groups, do voice chat, everything as usual. The only thing is, if you're on a PlayStation 5 and you send an invite to a PlayStation 4 user to join you in a game that's only on PlayStation 5, they're not going to get anything. But for normal conversations and games that are on both consoles, it works totally identical. You're still going to be able to talk and play with your friends. So, there you have it. Was any of this information valuable to you? Did you find any of these myths to be interesting? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.
Superplayers.
We love our PlayStation 5. The hardware is really sexy, the DualSense is amazing, and the exclusive games portfolio has proven to be excellent time and time again. However, there are a few things that prevent this console from being perfect. They go from very minor inconveniences to some very concerning things that really affect our enjoyment of the device. Get ready, because today we are having a look at 10 things we hate about the PlayStation 5.
Superplayers.
Number 10. One of the most exciting things about video game consoles has always been backwards compatibility. We can all remember getting a PlayStation 2 and still running PS1 games. Or when we got the Nintendo DS and our GBA library was still playable even if we sold or lost our Game Boy Advance at some point. Admittedly, backwards compatibility in the current generation of consoles is not what it once used to be. But Nintendo and Xbox are still putting in more effort to provide ways of playing older games. For example, Nintendo constantly increases their library of NES, SNES, and Nintendo 64 games that you can purchase from their store. And the Xbox Series X and S is not only backwards compatible with the Xbox One, but it's also compatible with many Xbox 360 and even original Xbox games. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the PlayStation 5. It does offer backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4, but that's about it. If you want to play PlayStation 2 or 3 games, you have to first purchase a PlayStation Plus subscription and not the basic one. You have to buy the most expensive subscription called PlayStation Plus Premium, and then you still cannot download those games and play them natively or through emulation. Instead, you have to stream those older games, which not only requires a very good and stable internet connection, but it still is far from a perfect way of playing games that require faster input. Running a game directly will always be more stable than streaming, and Sony really needs to catch up with its competitors in this department. Number 9. In 2014, when PlayStation 4 consoles came with 1 terabyte of storage space, it was more than enough, because even the largest games were mostly below 50 gigabytes. And since we used to have tons of games on discs as well, it saved us a lot of storage space overall, and we could install many games at the same time without a single worry. But when the PlayStation 5 came out with just around 667 gigabytes of usable storage space, it's no longer feasible to install a lot of games at the same time. Many games go over 100 gigabytes, and then their updates increase that even further. Not to mention that all of us are much more inclined to buying digital games nowadays. So some of these games aren't even accompanied by a disc. especially if you have the digital-only console. The only solution to get over this problem is to buy external storage. But there's a catch here too. You can only run PS4 games using an external hard drive on a PS5. For PS5 games, you need to buy specifically a compatible NVMe solid-state drive, which is much more expensive. So it's a lot of money that has to be thrown in extra, and thus the default storage space of the PlayStation 5 leaves much to be desired. Number 8. While Xbox Game Pass has become one of the most successful subscription services in the world of gaming, Sony only recently has been promoting a relatively similar service. And even then, the library is very lacking, and most of the games are quite old, which is a huge contrast compared to Xbox Game Pass, where not only do you get to use the pass on both Xbox and PC, you get all of Microsoft's exclusive games day one on the service. And then, if you want to play games through streaming, you can do it by choice, rather than having it as the only option using the xCloud service. Sony did add more options with the PS Plus expansion tiers that recently came out, but the library is still not up to par with having tons of games running natively on your hardware, and also having exclusives on day one. And not just exclusives, but many other games hit Game Pass day one as well. So, due to how many games have to be streamed, and the library generally being old, it's just not the best deal in town. And not having a true Game Pass competitor is one of the things we dislike the most about this console. Number 7. The days in which people only played video game consoles on TVs are long gone. Many people often hook up their gaming consoles to monitors since they typically offer better refresh rates for more competitive gaming. Unfortunately, the PlayStation 5 does not have support for the popular 1440p monitor resolution that is so common in PC gaming. As fans started to raise their voice on the matter, Sony simply stated that they don't currently have plans to support the resolution, to prioritize support for TVs. As you'd expect, Microsoft does support this resolution, and you can play games on it using the Xbox Series X and S. And yes, Sony often adds missing features through updates, so we hope they change their minds on this situation later. But right now, the lack of 1440p monitor support is one of the things we don't like the most about this console. Number 6. The PlayStation 5 body gains a lot of scratches and annoying fingerprints on its black piano finish. At first, we thought it was an isolated issue, but as soon as you look for solutions online, it turns out that thousands of people with the console have the same complaint. And of course, video game consoles are best placed in one spot, but that does not mean that we are never meant to move it. Sometimes you want to relocate it, or just put it away. In any case, it should be a part of the console's design to be a bit on the durable side, and the worst part is that even without moving it, no matter how careful you are, these scratches seem to appear magically, and for now, it seems they can't be fixed. Not to mention that Sony did a crackdown on the custom plates market, so they even tried to stop gamers from getting different cases that are not as easily scratched. Fortunately, dbrand did relaunch in a way that they cannot be sued anymore, but it's still extra money and effort that you need to put in just to avoid ugly scratches on your console. Number 5. Another visual problem with the PlayStation 5 is that the DualSense controllers can be easily stained due to their white color. You can clean it without too much effort, but the fact that you have to clean it so often is annoying, especially considering the fact that the DualShock 3 and 4, although they easily caught dust, it was a simple wipe of a cloth to clean them right up. The stains on the DualSense, on the other hand, take more time and precision to be cleaned properly, and unfortunately have to be done much more frequently. Number 4. The $60 pricing for video games has been consistent for a very long time. For generations, it has been viewed as a "if it ain't broken, don't fix it" situation, and rightfully so, because gaming is one of the most profitable entertainment mediums at this current point in time. However, Sony has started to raise the pricing of their games to $69.99, which can be seen on both first-party exclusive games and other games like Call of Duty. On the other hand, Nintendo Switch games are still $60, and the majority of Xbox Series X and S games are $60 too, especially the first-party ones. Only a few third-party sports games are $70 on the Xbox platform, but some of them are still cheaper on Xbox than on PS5. Nowadays, video games come with so much DLC and special editions that cost $10 to $30 above the normal edition already. Some games are feeling somewhat incomplete at launch, so raising the price to $69.99 can be discouraging, and this situation happens the most on PlayStation 5. Number 3. Xbox has a consistent cloud syncing feature which allows gamers to not worry about losing their progress, especially if they have to reinstall their software or change their console at some point. Unfortunately, cloud syncing is still something that doesn't work well on the PlayStation platform. Ever since the PlayStation 3, you have to pay real money in order to have cloud-saving privileges, while on Xbox, it's free. And on top of that, there is no default cloud-saving feature. Instead, every game has its own different way of doing it based on who is handling the development of the game. The lack of a unified and free cloud-saving option makes the PlayStation 5 feel like an outdated console, because whether you're on Xbox or PC, this is something that we take for granted in this generation. Number 2. Similar to the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, although less bad, the DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5 has a design defect which often causes its joysticks to begin drifting. This phenomenon manifests itself when your characters begin slightly moving on their own. This issue is so widespread to the point that a class action lawsuit was launched against Sony. Even worse, experts have analyzed the DualSense controller and realized that the drift is so common that it can even be predictable. So if you play the console for 2 hours per day, it's possible that you will end up getting drift on your DualSense within just 7 months. Ouch! Number 1. Out of every other problem listed in this video, the stock issue is perhaps the biggest offender. It's nearly impossible to get a PlayStation 5 console due to how horribly low the stock is. Even though the console has been released for quite some time now, only a few million people have the console, compared to how previous PlayStations sold over 80 million units because the stock actually existed. And Sony has not done much about the scalping issue either. Every time stock comes to a store, within the time between you adding your PS5 to the cart and checking out, bots and scalpers have bought every single console available, and then you find out all of the stock has been sold out right away. Your best bet at getting a console without giving hundreds of dollars to scalpers is to just use the PlayStation Direct Store program that gives you an exclusive chance at actually buying the console at MSRP pricing. But with millions of people on the waitlist, you can only imagine how small your chance of getting an invite is, especially considering how long the queue gets and how quickly they still sell out. We love our PlayStation, and the PS5 has been amazing. That's precisely why everyone wants one. But unfortunately, they just can't get it. A huge demand for the console and the inability for so many Superplayers to get one is precisely the number one thing we hate the most about the PS5.
Superplayers.
Did you know that you can watch YouTube and play games on your PlayStation 5 at the same time? Or that you can use your DualSense controller wirelessly on an iPad or gaming PC? Yeah! Get ready to know these and many other little-known secrets, tips, and curiosities when we show you the most awesome 20 secrets of the PlayStation 5.
Superplayers.
One of the things I like the most about the PS5 is its ability to multitask, but some of these features are super hidden. I bet you didn't know that you can watch YouTube while playing on your console. That's right. If you send a message to a friend with the address www.google.com, you can click on it and access the PS5's secret browser. There, you can search practically any page, including YouTube. Once inside, you can search for the video you want to see and do what is known as a pin, where you choose on which side of the screen you want the browser to be seen. You can start playing, and you will see that your video continues to play perfectly. A good tip if you are following a video guide or just waiting for the players lobby to fill up. Have you ever wondered how much time you are spending playing video games? Well, the PS5 allows you to keep track of this. If you go to your profile and then select the option Games, you can see how much time you are dedicating to each particular title. And not only for PS5 games, but also for PS4 games. It is always interesting for me to see these statistics. There are games that I thought I only played for a little bit. Then I go to my stats and say, oh man. Although the PS5 does not have some Xbox functionalities, like Quick Resume, which allows you to resume between several different games in just a matter of seconds, there is a little trick that helps you start playing a little faster. If, instead of launching your game as you do regularly, you use an activity card, you will be able to start your game in a more agile way. In games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, this option allows you to skip the Ubisoft logo and the part where you select your game save. That way you can fast forward around 10 seconds of loading time. It varies from game to game, but it is a good option to keep an eye on to play without wasting much time. And speaking of saving a couple of seconds, if you want to get to this bar where the search, configuration, and profile options are, you just have to press the triangle button and the cursor will be placed there no matter where you are on the screen. It also works in the PlayStation Store and is a little tip to move more quickly between the menus. Does it bother you to have to change the same options in each game separately? One of the coolest things about the PS5 is that it allows you to configure default options for all games. For example, I like to play with my aim inverted, but most games don't come with that option activated by default. That's where the PlayStation presets come in. If you go to Settings, then to Saved Data and Game App Settings, you can select the default game settings option. There, you can set things like the difficulty that you always want to be selected by default, if you prefer the performance mode or the resolution mode, adjust the camera movements for the first or third person view, and even a subtitles and audio options for all your games to choose from. It's well known that Sony exclusives tend to have very good stories, but they are worth nothing if your friends keep spoiling you with the captures that they upload to PlayStation. However, many people are unaware that for PlayStation 5 games, an option can be enabled to warn you of game spoilers. And, in fact, it works in a pretty clever way. The console looks at where your progress is going and compares it to the progress that your friend uploaded in his capture. If this capture shows any information that could be considered a spoiler, the console will warn you to prevent your friend capture from spoiling you the game story. A super interesting and practical little detail. Yes, you can play PS5 games on 4K resolution. However, no one will believe it if all the video captures you take are capped at 1080p. You can change this if you go to Settings, Captures and Broadcasts, Captures, and then to Video Clip format. There, you can select the file type, enable 4K resolution, and even include the audio from your microphone or voice chat. This generation, the PlayStation mobile application is much better. Last generation, there were several apps to do different things like play remotely or talk with your friends. But now, they have centralized everything, changed the graphical interface, and, in short, made the app very useful. One of the most practical things you can do with it is to manage the storage of your console, as long as it is in sleep mode. You can see everything you have installed, how much space each thing occupies, and install or uninstall games without having to turn on your console. Many people do not know that, apart from taking screenshots with your PlayStation 5, you can also edit them from the console. It is not a super powerful editor like Photoshop, but at least you can do things like crop and add text, change the color and text position, and, in short, make it a little more attractive before sharing it with your friends. Using NVMe storage that meets the requirements of the PS5, you can expand the amount of storage on your console by installing a new device inside. This will allow you to install and run PS5 games perfectly. But since these devices can be a bit pricey and PS4 games don't really require these speeds, it's best to use slower and cheaper external storage like a mechanical hard drive or some SSD, specifically for PS4 games. And in fact, few people know that there is a dedicated option for that. If you go to Settings, Storage, and then USB Extended Storage, you can select an option that causes all PS4 games to install on slow storage, leaving fast storage for PS5 games that can take advantage of it. If you want to send a quick text message, but you are too lazy to write it using the on-screen keyboard, you can press this microphone button and start dictating, and the console will write the text for you. Specifically in the PS5, this is a super practical option, since the DualSense has an integrated microphone, and therefore it is very easy to talk to it and see how your words magically become text. Very cool, huh? The DualSense is a wonderful controller that does so many epic things. However, the downside of having so much technology built within the controller is that it can consume more energy and therefore the battery life is not so good. But you can do a few things to remedy that. For example, make it turn off automatically after a certain amount of time, lower the intensity of the haptic triggers and vibration, and even change how bright your controller light is. With these settings, you can get more out of your DualSense battery. Maybe you know that you can choose between turning off your PS5 normally or putting it in sleep mode, right? But did you know that there are several sleep modes? When setting up the console for the first time, you will see a mode called Optimized Experience that allows you to download game updates while the console is in sleep mode and do other things like connect remotely. Then there is the low power usage, where the console will only consume between 0.1 to 0.5 watts in rest mode. And finally, the customized mode that allows you to select which options to activate or deactivate. There, you will see things like how long the USB ports last activated after turning off the console, or if you want it to stay connected to the internet. In short, there are many options to keep the electricity consumption of your PlayStation 5 under control. If you just bought a PS5, but you still have your PS4 laying around, you can make a network data transfer so you don't have to download all the PS4 games to the PS5 from the internet again. Head to Settings, System Software, Data Transfer, and then transfer data from your PS4. Both your PS4 and PS5 must have their operating systems updated and be connected to the same Wi-Fi network, or preferably a wired network that is much faster and more stable. This way you can transfer all your PS4 games to your PS5. Turning on the PS5 with the DualSense is very cool, but it stops being fun when you have to use another remote to turn on the TV. This is precisely why the PS5 allows you to activate what is known as HDMI device link. That way, when your console turns on, it can turn on other devices connected to the console. It also goes the other way around. You can configure that when you turn off your TV or device, the PS5 goes to rest mode automatically. Another pretty handy trick. The PS5 has a storage capacity of 825 gigabytes, but only around 667 GBs can be used, since the rest is occupied by the operating system. Therefore, you better be smart about how you use this space. Something very practical that you can do about it is to manage the recording of trophy videos. By default, every time you get one, the PS5 makes a recording of your accomplishment. But luckily, you can choose to do it only with platinum trophies. And you can even change the length of this video. However, our advice to save the most storage space is to simply deactivate this option and just use the capture button when needed. The DualSense connects to the PlayStation 5 using Bluetooth, and yet it always asks you for a cable to do its pairing. But did you know that if you press these two buttons at the same time, you can make your DualSense go into pairing mode? And the coolest thing of all is that the DualSense not only works with the PS5, you can perfectly use your DualSense on a computer, iOS devices, Android, on a Mac, on Apple TV, on an Amazon Fire TV, and in a lot of things. So yes, the DualSense is not just a good controller, it's also very compatible with other devices. Yes, the DualSense has an integrated microphone, and yes, it kinda makes you look and sound a bit silly. But at least it allows you to communicate with your friends without the need for headphones. Luckily, there's a dedicated button on the controller to mute this mic. Many people do not know that if you keep this button pressed for a few seconds, it will not only mute the microphone, but also the console. That way you can make your console stop emitting sounds without using the remote of your TV. If you want to play with your PlayStation 5, but the TV is being used by somebody else in your household, you can use the Remote Play function. To use it, you just have to download the Remote Play app on your device, and from there you can control your PS5 from anywhere in the house that has access to the network of your console. Devices that support this feature are Windows or Mac computers, Android or iOS devices, and even a PS4. It can be done using Wi-Fi, but obviously it works better if your device is connected to the PS5 by a network cable. Obviously, there will be a bit of latency, but it is a good workaround for games that are not so competitive while the TV is not available. And to conclude this video, one of the most interesting functions that the PS5 has is the option to take the audio from the voice chat and convert it into text. This was designed as an accessibility option so that people who have hearing problems can better interact with the other players. But even if you can listen without problems, it is also a good alternative when you are not in the mood to listen to other people but still want to have an idea of what they are talking about. This is not supported by all games, but the games that do support it gives more inclusion options to other super players who may have some particular physical limitations but are equal to or better gamers than the rest of us. For all of them, we dedicate this awesome video on 20 secrets of the PlayStation 5.
Superplayers.
Definitely the most epic aspect of the PS5 has to be its controller, the DualSense. It is more than an evolution of the previous controllers. It is a radical change for everything that PS5 represents. It has triggers that dynamically adapt its resistance, an extremely precise vibration, a set of microphones to record your voice, and best of all, a lot of secrets, tips, and curiosities that we will show you in this video.
Superplayers.
Although there are already DualSense controllers with colors other than white, such as red or black, these controllers are more expensive than the DualSense with the original colors, which in itself are relatively expensive. However, many people are unaware that the DualSense has a part that you can remove with your own hands. That's right, this allows you to modify the look of your DualSense with just a few dollars without having to buy a new one and spend a lot of money. Sure, you probably know that the DualSense controller works wirelessly through Bluetooth, but have you ever wondered, where is the Bluetooth sync button on the DualSense? All Bluetooth devices are supposed to have it, right? Well, if you haven't found it, it's because it literally doesn't exist. The only way to put the DualSense into pairing mode is by holding down the PlayStation button and the share button at the same time until the lights on the controller start to flash. That way, you are ready to pair your DualSense with a compatible device that supports Bluetooth. And since now we know how to pair our DualSense, surely you are curious about which devices are compatible with this controller. I have good news for you. The DualSense works with almost everything. It works with PCs, with Android devices, and even with iPhones, iPads, iPod Touches, and even Apple TVs. So in short, there are a lot of devices that are compatible. So yeah, the DualSense is a good option to have a modern and good quality control even without having a PS5. Some people know that the DualSense has an included microphone that, in addition to allowing you to talk with your friends without the need for headphones, it also allows you to interact with some games. What few people know is that it is not a single microphone, but several microphones that are used together to reduce the noise that is around you and make you hear yourself better. Also, if you don't want to use this mic, you can press the mute button to mute it, and you will see an amber light come on indicating that the mic is not active. But did you know that if you keep the mute button pressed for a few seconds, you can make your PS5 not emit any sound? It's true! This is an extremely practical way to mute your console without having to use your TV remote control. However, a really bad thing about these microphones that few people know is that by default, they are always on. Sony, for its part, believes that this is a way to capture your emotion and excitement when getting a trophy in a game, And yet, many people feel that this is actually a violation to their privacy. But don't worry, don't be one of those people who tape microphones and cameras because they don't trust Big Brother. True super players know that the PS5 has an option that allows you to mute the DualSense by default. That way you can play quietly without feeling like someone is listening. Although in principle, having a microphone and a controller sounds like a great idea, in practice, it really is not. The best way to communicate with your friends using a DualSense will always be with a headset. Of course, the DualSense microphones can be useful for sending a quick voice memo or getting on voice chat while searching for your headset, but the quality will never beat just wearing a pair of good headphones. Also, did you know that when using the DualSense microphones, you automatically lose power on the adaptive triggers? This is true. This is because since the microphones are inside the controller, the DualSense adapts to offer less resistance and make your voice less noisy. Anyway, you lose power in the adaptive triggers and your voice sounds worse. It's a good gimmick, but please, for the sake of everyone's ears, wear headphones. Also, if you could buy a PS5, I think you could probably afford headphones, right? Haha. And speaking about adaptive triggers, if you have not had the opportunity to use a DualSense, believe us when we tell you that it is one of the coolest things. Not all games implement this functionality, but those that do really add another level of immersion. For example, in shooters, you may feel the triggers change resistance depending on the weapon in your hands. The feel is very convincing, and for single-player games, they make everything feel more real. But for multiplayer games that are more competitive, they may actually put you at a disadvantage precisely because this resistance will slow you down by making the triggers harder and slower to press. The good thing is that you can deactivate the adaptive triggers functionality of the DualSense in the configuration menu of your console, and you can activate them again when you are playing something a little more casual. Don't tell me you turn off your controller using the PS5 menu. I mean, you press the PlayStation button, then Accessories, then you select your controller, and finally you give the option to turn off. Nah, true super players hold down the PS button for 10 seconds. And this makes the DualSense turn off without having to navigate through any menu. And yes, although this method is slower than the traditional way, it is easier to remember. And also, if you use this controller on PC, Android, or iOS, this is literally the only way to turn off the DualSense without having a PS5. So you better get familiar with it. One of the most iconic visual aspects of the DualSense has to be its LED lights that, as we all know, can change color. In games that support this functionality, the DualSense will change the color of its lights depending on the context of the game, and likewise, these lights can be recognized by the camera used by the PSVR, and are also used to indicate that your controller is charging. However, many people are unaware that apart from the colored lights, there are other small white LED lights that are used to indicate which player you are. That is, player number 1 has only 1 light on, player number 2 has 2, and so on until 4 lights are on. I bet you didn't know that little detail, right? Another of the most interesting curiosities of the DualSense is that in addition to all the devices that we have mentioned, you can also use it with a PS3, which is quite cool. But the strangest thing is that you cannot use it with a PS4. That's right. Neither by cable nor by synchronizing via Bluetooth. It just can't be done. It's even in the official Sony documentation. This may change in the future with an update, but at the moment, it is not possible. This is even weirder, considering that you can use PS4 controllers for PS4 games on a PS5. The DualShock 4 was infamous for its short battery life, and that is why the DualSense has a larger battery. This is necessary because this controller has much more technology, and precisely because of that, the bigger battery does not necessarily make the battery last much longer than the previous controller. Obviously, features such as adaptive triggers and the built-in microphones cause additional energy to be consumed. But you can save energy by using some of these tips. For example, the DualSense always stays on by default. Therefore, we recommend that you change this setting so that it turns off after a while without it being used. Likewise, you can decrease the intensity of the lights, the strength of the vibration, the volume of the speaker integrated in the controller, and even the intensity of the adaptive triggers. That way you can make your DualSense battery last much longer. If for some reason your DualSense is having problems connecting to your console, or is disconnecting spontaneously, or simply behaves strangely, you can reset it, using this official method recommended by Sony. To do this, find a pointy object, and insert it into this hole until you press the button inside it for 5 seconds. Once this is done, you can connect the DualSense to your console using a USB-C cable, and your controller will be working like new. Another super interesting detail of the DualSense is that it has a texture on the back that allows you to hold the controller more firmly in your hands. This detail is important because if you sweat from your hands, you can still continue playing without major problems. But the coolest thing is that if you pay attention and get as close as possible to this texture, you will realize that it is full of PlayStation icons. It is not very easy to see with the naked eye, but this same texture is also on the console itself, and is one of the coolest details of the DualSense and the PS5. Have you ever wondered what happens if a friend comes to your house and brings his DualSense to play with you, but you can't find your USB-C cable to pair it to the PS5? How do you synchronize your friend's controller? Easy! Put it in pairing mode and look for it in the Bluetooth accessories option. That way you can add that other controller without having a cable nearby. And to wrap it up, if you are really lazy typing to your friends using your DualSense, or even using your phone with the PlayStation app, there is a much more comfortable option that could be useful. When you go to write a message, press the button with the microphone icon, say the message you want to send to your friend through the DualSense microphone, and it will automatically start writing it for you. This way you can write a lot of things, making the slightest effort. Definitely one of the most awesome secrets of the PlayStation 5 DualSense.
Superplayers.